I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Yes, I can. Doubt, better leave. I'm running with this plan. Pull me, grab us in the bucket, can't have me. I'll be the president one day. January 1st. Oh, you like that gossip? Like you the one drinking what gossip.com. Now I got a word for your tongue. How many Rolling Stones you want? Yeah, I got a brand new spirit speaking and it's done. Woke up on the side of the bed like I won. Talk like the wind in my chest to that sun. G5 in the US to Taiwan. Now who can say that? I wanna play back. Mama knew I was a needle in a haystack. A whole body boy, plus way back. I got a feeling it's a rap. ASAP.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling.
The mountain top, walk on water. I got power, feel so royal. 1 second, I'ma strike for you. Diamond, platinum, no more for you. That adrenaline, never giving in. Giving up's not an option, gotta get it in. Witness, I got the heart of 20 men. No fear, go to sleep in the lion's den. That glow, that spark, that crown. You're looking at the king of the jungle now. Stronger than ever, can't hold me down. 100 miles gunning from the pitcher's bow. Straight game face, it's game day. See me running through the crowd, full of melee. No trick plays, I'm Bill Gates. Take a genius to understand me.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling. I get a good feeling, yeah. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Okay, so that was Good Feeling by Flowrider. I'm Sarah.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Matthew.
And we're here with you until the next half an hour. So here's Bruno Mars.
Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna kick my feet up, then stare at the fan. Turn the TV on, throw my hand in my pants. Nobody's gonna tell me I can't. Nah, I'll be lounging on the couch, just chilling in my Snuggie. Click to MTV so they can teach me how to Dougie. 'Cause in my castle, I'm the freaking man. Oh, yes, I said it. I said it. I said it 'cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just Tomorrow I'll wake up, do some P90X, meet a really nice girl, have some really nice sex, and she's gonna scream out, "This is great."
Oh my god, this is great.
Yeah, I might mess around and get my college degree. I bet my old man will be so proud of me. But sorry, Pops, you'll just have to wait. Oh, yes, I said it. I said it. I said it 'cause I can. Today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. No, I ain't gonna comb my hair, 'cause I ain't going anywhere. No, 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 no. I'll just strut in my birthday suit and let everything hang loose. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, today I don't feel like doing anything. I just wanna lay in my bed. Don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave a message at the tone. 'Cause today I swear I'm not doing anything. Nothing at all. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Nothing at all. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Nothing at all.
Spark FM is exclusively Sunderland.
107 Spark FM.
Oh my, my, who's that child? Where is he going to? Why is he so wild? What is he staring at? Why is he so taken? Seems like he's choosing to believe, even when he's faking. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. Elusive energy, hard to hold. I'm looking for it now and will be when I'm old. Whoever put that fist in the square must have been a good friend to the man. Driving by Spanish roundabout, or it's gotta be who you know. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. Have I known you for 10,000 days? Is there no other way to go? It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting. It always feels like I'm waiting for something. This new piece like I'm waiting for something. It always feels like I'm waiting. It always feels like I'm waiting for something.
Okay, so that was Bruno Mars and Nada Surf there. So Rebecca, you're into games. In fact, you're so into games, you have a friend who designed one. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, we have designed, me, my friend Sam, my boyfriend, we've designed this game. And I interviewed Sam about the kind of production of it, and we're going to play that interview right now. Hello, I'm Rebecca, and I have my lovely friend Sam Blackmore in with me today.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about a game that he's been developing over the best part of a year. What is this game?
Well, it's called the Interactive Yogsperience.
Mm-hmm.
I also advertise it as simply the Yogpod game, because it's a game about a podcast called the Yogpod.
What is the Yogpod? I mean, what does it entail?
Well, it's these two guys called Simon and Lewis and a girl called Hannah, and they came to popularity on YouTube making videos about World of Warcraft and other video games. And recently, within the past year or so, they've become, I think, the number 4 most subscribed channel on YouTube, so quite a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And something they do on the side is this podcast, the Yogpod, which is a bit less to do with video games. It's kind of completely random, really, anything they want to talk about. Complete just ramblings, goes anywhere, really.
This video game, the Interactive Yogsperience, what's it about, apart from the Yogpod, obviously, because that's kind of given away in the name? Who helped develop it, get these ideas flowing? And
well, the ideas for the story basically come from all these kind of in-jokes that they talk about all the time. So they've got these favourite characters on the Yogpod, celebrities basically, like Brian Blessed's one of them, Warwick Davis and Tina Barrett from S Club 7. So the story is something which I just made up. It's completely random. It's basically about Brian Blessed has stolen away Tina Barrett. She's like the princess.
oh no.
A bit like in the Mario games, and it's your job to go and rescue her. And all sorts of crazy things happen along the way. Like, one of the jokes is that Brian Blessed loves jam sandwiches. So part of the story is that you have to make this huge jam sandwich because he's a giant. So you make this huge sandwich, and then you have a battle with him.
Oh my
So it makes no
goodness.
sense if you don't listen to the Yogpod.
But even if you did play it, I think it would still be fairly enjoyable. I mean,
Yeah.
you might not get the jokes as well
You-
as people who watch it, but...
You wouldn't understand every reference, but it's still fun, yeah.
So, from the very, very beginning, from
Mhm.
your very first seedling idea of a Yogpod game,
Yeah.
how did everything come about?
Me and my friend Chad and yourself
Yes?
have been listening to the Yogpod for about 3 years, and they talk about video games all the time. And so one day I was just thinking, what about a video game about them? Because I know how to use this program called Game Maker. So I emailed them just saying, wouldn't that be a cool idea? Just as a sort of concept. Never thought it was going to go beyond that. And they actually read out that email on one of their later podcasts.
Did you feel famous?
Yeah. Starstruck, yeah. And then, but I never bothered going beyond that. And then about a year ago, we were having a Chinese, me, you, and Chad, and we were just talking
It was
about
a very nice Chinese.
It was good, and it stimulated our ideas, and we thought, what if I actually did that and made this game? So we spent the rest of the meal talking about all these ideas, all the jokes that could go into it, all the references, and how funny it could be. And that night when we got back, I immediately just put a little thing together to see if it would be worth doing. And I actually made this very, very simple demo. It was just 2 rooms that you could walk through. I posted that online and a little video accompanying it, and Simon and Lewis, who it's about, they favorited it on YouTube, and just that favourite alone sort of brought all this whole crowd across to the video. That video is now around 200,000 views, I think it got, just from that.
Wow.
So lots of people saw it, and they played this terrible little demo that I did, and they thought it was hilarious. There's almost no effort gone into that, and so we thought, wow, we've got something here, let's keep going.
And then this has taken, from that very, very small demo
Yeah.
to what we have now is, like, obviously a playable game.
Yeah.
That's taken the best part of a year. If Simon and Lewis seen this,
Yeah.
I mean, what would you want, I wouldn't say from them, but what would you like to see if they got involved with this game, or any kind of maybe future plans?
Well, the best case scenario would be, I mean, they play all these different games on their YouTube channel all the time, so if they played my game, if they just just did a little playthrough. It might take about half an hour or so, so they could cut it up into a few videos. And then, I mean, they have over 1 million subscribers, I think. So,
Wow.
I mean, it would get a lot of attention. A lot of people would see it, and then they'd want to try it for themselves. So that would be amazing if that ever happened. But if they could just get hold of it and like promote it in any way, just mention it at all, that would be enough, because they have such a huge following. That would be amazing.
It's available for download from your Facebook page, which is facebook.com/yogpodgame.
That's right.
Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun to play. I bet it is.
It's been a lot of fun to make.
And let's hope Simon and Lewis maybe download it themselves and have a good crack at it.
That would be good.
Well, thanks very much for coming in and joining us in the studio, Sam.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And I do hope that everybody downloads it.
Me too.
Go on. If we have anything to say.
Yeah, one of the main things that people were talking about was like the gameplay.
Yeah, because I'm a gamer as well. I've got loads of games at home. Well, at the flat
Yeah.
where I stay. And I was wondering when I heard about that, what gameplay
Well,
is it?
it's like a platformer, so like, you know, like Mario, side scroller, but it's just it's brilliant. Like, because we've obviously played it quite a lot from like the very first demo, which was like 2 rooms essentially, and it was absolutely awful. But it's really, really good, and the length of it is like there are quite a few levels, so it's a really, really good game.
So how long is it, like in feet wise?
In feet.
Yeah, in feet. Well, I need to know. 'Cause
I don't know, like 6 feet. I don't know.
well, when you play Skyrim, I count the feet as like 1 foot,
it's
2
it's
foot.
just an indie game, so like, you know, it's a short game, but you should definitely download it. It's really, really good.
All right.
Okay, you're getting way too into this. So the next song is Nervo.
This is 107 Spark FM.
And we are exclusively Sunderland.
Take the fall, you reminisce about almost nearly having it all. You see the stars, you try and catch one. Oh, you tried so hard, chasing nothing. Because we're all no one to someone thinks that we're someone. Until then we're no one. And you got me looking at you. I said we're all no one to someone thinks that we're someone. Until then we're no one. And you got me looking at you. We're all the same. We all have hopes. Oh, it gets insane when you're slipping down that downward slope. I come with peace. I offer love. So if you're hearing me, then hurry, baby, give it up. Because we're all no one to someone thinks that we're someone. Until then
Okay, so that was Nervo and We're All No One. I hope you're having a really good day out there.
I'm having a really, really good day. I finished all my work, so I have absolutely nothing to do. I can sit on my bum. It's fantastic.
Oh, I've still got work to do. I've got like, it's just games. I play like, it's just like I could do work or I could play a game.
You need to prioritise your stuff, man.
Yeah, I do.
Work first, Skyrim later. God.
No, it's the opposite way around.
Oh.
Skyrim first, then games when the PSC's
It's a bit
fucked.
hard. It's a sandbox, you know. They have no goals. You could be on that for hours. God, prioritise your work.
That's why I'm still up at like 7 in the morning and then wake up at 9 to come back here
That's
all
not
tired.
good, man.
Oh.
That's not good. But yeah, we're hoping that everyone's having a nice day. Unfortunately, it's quite cold outside, so I hope everyone's wrapped up.
Oh. When everyone talks about the weather, I always keep going, oh, the weather outside is frightful.
It is pretty cold outside. It's I came in, I had to wear my coat and my cardigan, gloves and scarf, and it's like, where was the snow over the Christmas, man?
Okay, well, it's time for Taylor Swift now.
107 Spark FM is the only radio station in the northeast that guarantees to remain exclusively to Sunderland. Other stations may cover everything in the region and beyond, but we are committed to our community. If you want a radio station that focuses on community, voices and the city of Sunderland, then choose 107 Spark FM as your local radio station.
107.
107 Spark FM.
I used to think one day we'd tell the story of us, how we met and the sparks flew instantly. And people would say they're the lucky ones. I used to know my place was the spot next to you. Now I'm searching the room for an empty seat. 'Cause lately I don't even know why
Well, that's the end of our show. Thank you very, very much for listening. We do have one more track up, which is from a local artist, which is Athletes in Paris, Borrowed Time.
So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Love local music? Love our 6 till 6 local music guarantee. The local music playlist.
107 Spark FM. Spark FM. Spark FM.
Are we ticking on borrowed time? Ticking on borrowed time now. Are we ticking on borrowed time? Ticking on borrowed time now. Veep, son, you say I'm your son. Well, Vipper, Nelly, won't you tell Becky? Far and fart stuff, you may think it's small stuff, but think about them, please, just before you sneeze. With the smiling, ugly men that you're hanging from, making me feel strongly that we're taking on borrowed time. Are we taking on borrowed time now? Are we taking on borrowed time? Are we taking on borrowed time now? Ain't you asked for a mention? 1,000 miles away, but you still pay me attention. With your ears, then your fingers, made me realize that mutual compromise could beat the hands of borrowed time. To beat the hands of borrowed time. 'Cause if I don't believe ya, I will leave ya. Don't believe me, keep on trying me. Keep you smiling, gleaming. For a moment, I was one of them. Don't believe ya, I will leave ya. Don't believe me, keep on trying me. Keep you smiling, gleaming. That you're hanging from, making me feel strongly that we're ticking on a borrowed time. Are we ticking on borrowed time now? How many lies have you had me swallow? Streets that you watch me follow. If I don't believe ya, I believe ya. Don't believe me, keep on trying me. Keep you smiling, gleaming. For a moment, I was one of them. Don't believe ya, I believe ya. Don't believe me, keep on trying me. Keep you smiling, gleaming. Are we ticking on borrowed time now?
Now we present Rock and Roll Radio, a Spark FM documentary in which Greg Porter explores the relationship between pop music and radio.
The interesting thing is that radio was the arbiter, so that blogs would start writing about you after you'd been on the radio, or rather journalists would write about you, once you were happening on the radio and stuff. Whereas now, radio will only play you if there's something happening. So radio is actually following the online buzz rather than creating it.
I was chilling in the shine and the light night dial, doing anything my radio advised. With every one of those late night stations playing songs, bringing tears to my eyes.
Hello, my name is Greg Porter, and this is Rock and Roll Radio, the story of British radio's relationship with the music business over the last 60 years.
I can hardly believe they really think we're getting out of control. Radio is the sound salvation. Radio is cleaning up the nation.
During this programme, we'll be looking back at how radio and pop music formed the perfect partnership and how this evolved over time.
But they don't give you any choice because they think that it's treason. So you had better do as you were told. You better listen to the radio.
We'll also be asking what the future holds for the role of radio within the music industry and whether or not it will continue to be important as the digital age rolls on. But right now, let's take a look back at where the story began.
My name's Tom Robinson and I present the BBC Introducing Fresh on the Net show for Six Music. Well, I was born in 1950, so I've kind of seen the whole span of what we call the modern music industry. From my brother buying Bill Haley records in 55, 56, Elvis Presley coming along, Tommy Steele. And in those early days, we had 78s. I mean, the 45 and the long player were actually quite recent developments, comparatively speaking, so late 50s, early 60s, and even then they were kind of luxury items.
This is Guy Starkey and I am a Professor of Radio and Journalism. The rock and roll revolution of the 1950s was reflected really heavily on radio in the United States, but not in the UK. And in fact, in the 1950s, the BBC in the UK had got a very, very relaxed approach to broadcasting, and certainly very little desire to serve the emerging teen market.
I'm Andrew Crisell. I'm Professor of Broadcasting Studies at the University of Sunderland. One way of looking at what happened in the 1960s was that, first of all, there was a very fundamental threat to radio in the form of television. And I think a number of things rode to radio's rescue. One, of course, was transistorization, which meant that radio receivers became much more portable, more lightweight, cheaper eventually. And that coincided, of course, with this extraordinary new kind of music, which was effected from a fusion of black rhythm and blues and white country and western, and soon became known as rock and roll.
In the 50s, if you wanted to listen to the radio, you either had to have a crystal set with a huge long aerial strung out down your garden, or you had to listen to the family radio that was in the same pride of place as the family TV is these days. And it took ages to warm up and had valves. But in the early 60s, we started to get widespread sale of transistor radios at affordable prices, and that meant that teenagers could actually consume music away from their parents. You could take the music up to your bedroom, you could take it out in the park, you could listen on a headphone somewhere, and suddenly we had separate access to music.
It wasn't until 1967 that the BBC started playing pop music in its original form, rather than light orchestral cover versions, but playing pop music on an all-day music station called Radio 1. And of course there weren't many ways of accessing new music in those days. If you were a young person, you were excited about music and you wanted to be part of the scene. You wanted to hear what the latest new music was coming over from the States, and you wanted to hear what new music was being created here in the UK. Then there were very limited ways to access that.
No, 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 say you don't need no diamond rings.
That was really the birth of it, and Radio 1 then took over once the Pirates were scuppered in '67, and Radio 1 became the principal conduit through which young people in Britain could consume music. That put an awful lot of power into the hands of the gatekeepers at Radio 1, because unless the people who sat on the playlist panel decreed that your record would get played, you didn't get played. There was only John Peel who might put your cassette on late at night and play it once. But other than that, if you made a record and Radio 1 didn't play it, nobody would ever ever get to hear it. And that was phenomenally difficult at that time.
Diamond rings and I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of things that money just can't buy. I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Buy me love.
It's hard to imagine nowadays that there was really only one medium, two if you count Top of the Pops, where your music could be heard by people who might actually like it.
I'm Alan Cowdroy. I currently manage record producers and mixers, but back in time a little bit, I was at Stiff Records, one of the directors. Well, my very first job was plugging for Decca Records.
Ah, the mysterious work of radio plugging. It stands to reason, I suppose, that in a pre-internet age, radio station personnel might need a bit of help with sourcing records, as they still do. Here's modern-day radio plugger Eden Blackman explaining exactly what the trade involves.
The easiest way to describe it is if you turn the radio on now, if you put any radio station on now, any music-based radio station, if it's a commercial station, they'll be playing a record that is forthcoming, it's going to be released or it's released, and it's somebody's job to get that record played. So I'll go to all my radio stations and I will talk about all of my records in a very positive manner and how they are far better and far-reaching than all the other records they're listening to, and why playlisting my records is a better move than playlisting the other 10 or 11 they've been given that morning.
Thanks, Eden. More from him later on in the programme, but right now let's go back to Alan Cowdroy.
And really in those days there were two, companies. It was EMI and Decca back in those good old days. And Decca Records had a publishing company, Burlington Music, and I was the plugger for Burlington Music. It was tough. Radio 1, ironically it's the same as today. You're either on the Radio 1 playlist or you're not on the Radio 1 playlist. There was a wall at Egton House where you took the records that you wanted plugging, and you looked at the wall. There was a chart that went up on the wall. It was called the Wailing Wall, because your record was either on the charts, which was the playlist, or not. And it was, those were hard.
Making music in the 70s, which was when I started out, you had to get past two lots of gatekeepers. First, record companies, because home demoing was not a possibility at that time. Even a 2-track Revox tape recorder cost you a couple of grand for anything in decent quality. No multi-tracking on that, and certainly no way to record drums on it. So, unless a record company said you could make a demo, you couldn't even demo the song idea that you had in your head to try and get a record deal. Once you'd made a demo, a record company would decide if you were allowed to make a record, and then they'd dictate how you made the record, and then you'd make the record, and Radio 1 would dictate whether anybody ever got to hear it.
Ain't no use sitting up with a bad companion. Ain't nobody get the better of you, no good.
Radio 1's grip, however, was somewhat eased by 1973, when the government allowed the introduction of independent local radio. But with these stations reliant on audience numbers and the subsequent revenue from advertising, they largely mimicked the tried and tested top 40 format. But this was still independent radio, and as the commercial stations settled in over the next decade, there was some scope for music variety across the land.
I'm Bernie Griffiths. I was a regional radio promotions manager back in the 80s, in the middle of the 80s. So my job was to go around, give away as many records as I could to try and get these records played, 7-inch records, and the prize was signed albums of the various acts that I worked with, which ranged from Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, The Associates, and Killing Joke, to Roxy Music, James Last, and his orchestra.
Yesterday I got so old I felt like I could die. Yesterday I got so old it made me want to cry.
It was vastly different in those days. I mean, the individual program controllers, and they used to have libraries full of vinyl, and the librarians would sort vinyl for the heads of music who would make up the playlist. And they all had different attitudes, you know. The BRMB, I don't know if BRMB is still in Birmingham, but the head of music there ran the classical music show. So his playlist was always incredibly safe. I used to have James Last and his orchestra regularly playlisted. On the other hand, you had characters like Richard Park, who was head of music at Radio Clyde at the time, who would playlist My Killing Joke records and have The Cure in for interviews and come to concerts and co-promote and get involved on a very adventurous and exciting level. Piccadilly Radio was an interesting one at the time because you had Chris Evans as a T-boy who used to tape op for Timmy Mallet, and the head of music, actually the librarian at the time, was Mark Radcliffe, and the boy Lard was floating around in the background, but he was still in a band. He was a local celebrity because he was still making music, and that was an incredible pool of talent. It was a cutting-edge industry at the time because it was learning about itself. They were making up the rules. The music attracted a certain kind of listener, and depending on the demographic, you know, they'd have to pander to that listener.
It's now time to jump forward to the mid-90s, and one person who didn't pander to the listeners was this man, brought into Radio 1 to reinvigorate the station and drastically change the music policy.
I'm Trevor Dan. I was in previous lives head of production at Radio 1 and head of music entertainment at the BBC in the 1990s.
I said, in that case, I'll have room with Coca-Cola. She said, fine. And then in 30 seconds time, she said...
Lots of things had changed in the real world. You know, music policies had come and gone, television had expanded, commercial radio had expanded, and Radio 1 was run exactly the same way in 1994 as it had been in 1974. So really my job was recruiting better on-air names, which I think we did. Secondly, to change the music policy just to make it more relevant. You know, when I arrived, Radio 1 was still playing the Electric Light Orchestra. It was still playing records from the 60s and 70s, which were not enjoyed by people who were in the target audience of, you know, late teenagers and early 20s. There was no way you could get people to listen to a station like Radio 1 just by playing the occasional Blur record in between a record by Luther Vandross and another record by the Electric Light Orchestra. It just didn't make any sense. One of the things that we realised we had to do was to make it clear to the public that we were changing. It wasn't enough just to change. And to help all this, we used to have, and I've joked about it many times since, but we used to have what we notionally call the F-off list. In normal radio stations, you have an A list, a B list, and a C list. The A list is the records you play the most, and B list you play not quite so much, and the C list are the new ones or the slightly odder records. And we had the F list, which really stood for records that would make older listeners go away. So we felt that if you played something like Firestarter by The Prodigy in the middle of the Simon Bates show, people of a certain age would go, "Oh my God, that's horrible," and disappear off to, you know, whatever commercial station was playing them Luther Vandross. But we would hope that younger people would say, "Hey, have you heard? Radio 1's got cool and it's playing Firestarter by The Prodigy."
frustrated. I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter. You're the fire starter, twisted fire starter. I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter.
The need for Radio 1 to undergo a stylistic and musical revolution is an example of how much radio needs to be bang up to date with the latest trends. The late 80s acid house scene had injected a much needed surge of energy into British music, and bands like the Stone Roses had spearheaded the new dance indie movement. But Radio 1 had hardly covered any of this. With the right programming and presenters on board, however, the station re-engaged with a youth audience and started to reposition itself within the British music industry.
You're the fire starter, twisted fire starter.
You know, I needed to pick some fights. You know, there needed to be some blood on the carpet, and I knew that what I was doing would not make me popular, but that in the long run, people would look back, as I believe they do, and say, do you know what? Without that revolution in the 90s, during which, let's face it, there was some collateral damage, which everybody was disappointed about, but. If we hadn't done that, there wouldn't be a Radio 1, and there wouldn't be all the good things that it continues to do in the world of live music and sessions with young bands, and, you know, BBC Introducing and all its curious old specialist programs.
My name's Ian Blackmore. I run an independent national radio promotions company called Ish Media. Our job is to look after the careers at radio of all our artists. Well, specialist for me has been enormously important. I mean, prior to Ish, I had a company which I set up in 95, 96, so let's call it 15 years, which is exactly where you are. You know, prior to that, you had the days of, you know, what latterly known as sort of smashing nicey, where it was all nice records being played on daytimes, more Mariah Carey's and all of those kind of records. And specialists didn't get a look in. It was very much, well, that's the records we play when it gets dark and no one's really listening. And now it's more important now. You know, 55 records on the playlist, I would probably look at 70% of those have come from specialists. You know, get the odd one that will just fly through.
Specialist music shows have contributed so much to radio's mainstream daytime playlist recently that it's not always easy to define what specialist really means anymore. The emergence of the internet as a source of endless music discovery has propelled certain genres and musicians into the spotlight way before traditional radio play would have landed them there.
Now that Marty Bum, I've seen your frown, and it's like looking down the barrel of a gun and it goes off. And how come all these words? Oh, there's a very pleasant side to you, a side I much prefer. It's one that's laughs and jokes around. Remember cuddles in the kitchen, yeah, to get things off the ground. And it was up and away. Oh, but it's really hard to remember that on a day like today, when you're all argumentative and you've got the face on.
In 2006, Sheffield four-piece The Arctic Monkeys released their debut album, Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not. The band, however, already had a loyal following, and it was these fans who were integral to their initial success. They shared demo CDs at early gigs and uploaded them onto sites like MySpace. Unbeknown to the band, and indeed mainstream media, the Arctic Monkeys were generating a huge online fan base. Although when asked about it, frontman Alex Turner would deny they were purely an internet sensation, it is widely regarded that their success represented a shift in the way that bands could reach an audience. Local radio did eventually play their records, although this was only after the initial hype. A year later, in 2007, BBC Introducing was launched, which demonstrates the necessity for radio to reposition itself within the music industry and furthermore to offer a public service.
Lucifer, you're landing. Crosses on the kitchen sink. Barbed wire in the bathroom. I can't make new memories since.
There's a BBC-wide initiative called BBC Introducing that runs across all the music radio networks as a means of bringing new talent forward and giving them a kind of leg up. in what we laughingly call the music industry.
Flashbacks to the time this shell-shock department was the place I met with your boy. It's a mortal thing, yeah, it's a mortal thing. Oh, he looked at me funny and think our secrets are and I tried to explain, but the munitions rain and with the epicenter. Slam watching the info, people taking over melody. Slam watching the info, people taking over melody.
The arrival of broadband, making it possible to stream music, is the real key change here. So that first MySpace and then later SoundCloud and Bandcamp and Facebook itself have made it possible for music to get heard, whether or not a record company decides to allow you to make recordings.
The internet, however, for anyone out there that hasn't used it, is quite an expansive place. Just because a band or record label might have their material online doesn't necessarily mean anyone will ever hear it.
I'm Tim Wall. I'm Professor of Radio and Popular Music Studies at Birmingham City University. I'd say it's virtually impossible to track what goes on the internet, to use MySpace as a source of your knowledge of what's happening. I know that there are a lot of radio stations that like to present themselves as doing that, but of course that's about them presenting themselves really as being up to date and in tune with how their audience listen or make themselves aware of music. But it's obviously a lot more complicated. Far more people out there, musicians as well as record companies, trying to get a profile. And there's just too much information to be able to select from. You need other people to tell you.
My name's Paul Campbell, and I'm the founder of something called Amazing Radio and AmazingTunes.com. Amazing Radio is a national DAB radio station broadcasting all over the UK with a bit of a claim to fame, I think, which is it's the first radio station in the world that only plays new music from new and emerging artists. 100% brand new. I started my career in radio at the BBC, and I've always thought radio is by a country mile the best medium. And in 2007 we launched something called AmazingTunes.com, which the idea of which was based kind of a bit like iTunes for unsigned artists. The rationale was, if you write and record your own music and you own the copyright in it, that's great, and you can do it to the higher quality and lower cost than ever before in history. But it's difficult to make any money out of it, and it's difficult to get an audience for it. So the idea behind AmazingTunes.com was that would do the hard bit. It would give you a mechanism like iTunes, as I say, but 100% focused on new music, which would help people find that music that you'd written, and would also give you a fair deal if people bought it. One day I started thinking, how can we differentiate this? How can we make it better than all the competitors who were doing a similar thing, a bit like MySpace, sites like that? And also, what, if it was me uploading the music, what would I really want? If we had a radio station so that they could upload to our website and have the potential to get onto the radio, oh my God, that would be exciting.
The other difference again is technology. In the same way that transistor radios made it possible to hear pop in the 60s, in the noughties, the fact that you can just buy a laptop which will have enough software on it, free software, that you could actually make a top of the charts quality record with, if you have good enough ears to do it, is an enormous change that you don't have to go cap in hand to anybody. All you have to be is good. And that's the key difference, because if you do write the next Can't Buy Me Love or Hey Joe or Creep or Wonderwall and put it up on a web page, and it is of that quality, like what the like that's the most brilliant record I've heard, I've got to hear that again. That's the quality of writing that you need to have a massive hit. These days you only have to write it, and people will beat a path to your MySpace page or to your SoundCloud page.
The problem, of course, is that every song you've already heard of is instantly available to download, but that doesn't solve the problem of how you find the new stuff. So there's an ironic contrast that there's more music around and there's more music being made by people in home studios than has ever been the case before, but there's less new music being put onto record labels.
With musicians harnessing the power of digital technology and the radio world tirelessly working towards tapping into the new music market, radio is very much still playing an important role within the music industry. New genres and artists have benefited hugely over the last 15 years as a result of radio broadening its horizons. But surely it's in the interest of radio stations to give these new records a spin, otherwise their listeners might go elsewhere. By simultaneously breaking new artists and also reflecting existing trends, online for example, many think that the relationship between radio and the music industry continues to be a healthy one. However, opinion remains divided, and given that the digital age is arguably still in its infancy, the jury is very much still out.
I think radio is in a very healthy place, but is always under challenge. You know, the old song, video killed the radio star, television, cinema, the iPod, you know, everything was meant to kill radio. And in fact, none of them ever did, because radio is a really powerful medium and it continues to attract a lot of listeners. But what I think people want from their radio, I think, is human contact. They want engagement with another person. And there's a current word, you know, the social network. Everybody talks for the last 5 years about social networking. Well, radio is the original social network. That's what it was. You know, write a letter to John Peel became, you know, send a tweet to Amazing Radio or its equivalent.
The thing that works best of all is, number one, having people who have good pairs of ears, who are trusted, whose job it is to choose the music, which is what John Peel used to be, and that's what every DJ in Amazing Radio does. And the other thing that works is having recommendations from mates. So although on the face of it Amazing Radio appears to be a new way of doing something, actually it's a new way of doing the old thing. It's a new way of facilitating music discovery on the radio, but doing it in a very focused way.
Tragically, I think it's the same, even though we've got the World Wide Web and so many other marketing tools at our disposal. I think the current scene is difficult for people trying to get records away. You know, and the question always will be, are we on the Radio 1 playlist? And heads will drop if you're not, and will be buoyant and raised and optimistic if you are.
You know, the latest listening surveys show as much listening going on in this country at least.